Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Impact Series hosted by 40. I'm your host today, Michael Palmer, co-founder and lead recruiter here at 40. Absolutely delighted to be joined today by Christoph Berger, who is the CEO and founder of a fantastic company called Vilisto. Just to give you a little bit more of an intro, Christoph, a very impressive profile. Not only is he's the father of three daughters, the same as me, studied at Berkeley in California, and founder of multiple businesses. So, look, Christoph, pleasure to have you on. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Michael, for having me.
Fantastic. Look, obviously, I've given you a little bit of an intro there, but the viewers always like to kind of hear a bit about it from yourself. So, look, tell me a bit about your journey, then, Christoph. Tell me about Vilisto and the kind of climate challenges that you're helping to solve, and of course, your specific solution to those said issues.
Yeah, sure. So basically what we do at Vilisto is we help our customers, especially municipalities, but also B2B companies, to save energy and CO2 emissions. Usually between 20 and 30% of what we can save. And we do that with, let's say, self-learning thermostats. You might know thermostats from the B2C space, from smart home appliances. Yep. We do that in the area of B2B and B2G, so governmental, for professional energy management. And the specifics or differentiation here is that in the sector we're working, you need to have a fully automated technology, right? So the people who are in the office, they use energy, but don't pay for it. So they go home, leave the heating on. And this is why we automate the whole process with an integrated presence detection. So we learn occupancy patterns and then heat demand-based, saving energy and CO2.
Yeah, and how does that work? So in practice, how does that actually work? So the kind of smart thermostats, what do they look like? Where are they positioned? How do they work?
Yeah, so basically it's exchanging the ones you have on the radiators today, right? So it's a radiator-based system. The look is similar to the ones on the markets, and you just replace the ones you have today, which is usually the scale from 0 to 5. Right.
Yep.
You have the same haptics, same feelings. You can still turn on the wheel and turn it up and down. But the technology behind is a bit different, so that inside the device we have various sensors to detect motion, for example, and other specifics to detect if you're using the room.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's quite. When we met before, I think it's quite it's a simple, very simple idea. Obviously, it was there's a lot of very, very complicated tech and software and hardware and embedded design that goes into these. But in theory, it's a pretty simple concept. So yeah. You're in a room, I'm in a room at the moment, as you are. There's a radiator, it's got the kind of dial where you turn the radiator kind of on or off or up or down, depending on how hot you need it. You kind of don't think about that too much, but actually, if your heating goes on in a house or in a government building, it kind of heats the whole building up, every room if you're not using it, which is silly because it's wasting energy, right? So if the room's not being used, it's a meeting room that's not booked that day, or it's a room where someone's only going to be in there 1 or 2 days a week. It doesn't make sense to heat that room up. So to have a simple, like a sensor-based thing to turn that radiator on and on is simple but genius as well, and a very I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because if you look at the buildings and what we experience in the market is that I'd say 90% of the buildings, they're heating 24/7. And if you take a normal work week, let's say 40 hours over the whole year with holiday, etc., you'll notice that 80%, 80, of the time the rooms are not used. So it doesn't make sense to heat them 24/7, right? So and that's where the energy savings then also come from.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. But I mean, and I'm surprised more of this doesn't exist, not just in B2B market, but obviously the B2C market, because we're in an energy crisis as we still are at the moment. I know there are products out there, but you'd expect that perhaps more people are uptaking that. And also in terms of selling this to your customer base, I mean, it seems like an absolute no-brainer to me. You speak to the building manager or the facility manager, whoever the kind of your target contact is to sell it to. If you can say, look, you're heating your building a lot of the time, probably 80% of the time it's unoccupied. You know, this can give you, you know, huge energy savings. But so I think, what's the sort of the highest energy savings that you've been able to clock or that you've been able to measure in terms of your customer base?
I think we reached over 50% once. Let's say the more common peaks, I'd say, is around 40%.
Okay.
And the average goes between, let's say, maybe 18 and 32%.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, whether it's 18 and 30 or up to 50%, I mean, those are very, very significant savings. But we're talking, so energy savings, of course, energy savings means cost saving as well, yes. But not just cost saving, but if you're reducing your energy use by 20%, 30%, 40%, whatever it is, you're also reducing the amount of carbon that you're using and emitting as well. So a direct correlation between reduced energy use, reduced cost, and reduced emissions. I mean, that's the kind of trifecta where it's, again, I said it before, but it certainly feels like a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And to your target, so what's the kind of typical user case? What's the typical kind of customer? What do they look like? Are there other, of course, at the moment, are there other markets or other areas that you're looking to now expand into, or other kind of countries, other territories?
Yeah, so basically you could divide the market in 3 different segments. The one is the public sector, which we're the most strong currently in. So typical customers is city, municipality, or a whole state portfolio. The interesting part there is that they have a vast majority of just buildings, right? Hundreds or thousands of buildings per customer, which is very interesting to scale impact. Another third of the market is like users of buildings who own the buildings, right? So a company owning the building and using it themselves, directly having the effect of the savings. And then the other third is the real estate market. So large landlords renting out to multiple tenants, which is a different segment, which is usually let's say the slowest one, because you have a user investor dilemma in that area of investing and saving. But those are the areas we're active on all 3. Most focus, as I said, is public, just because of the sheer amount of buildings they have, and also what's relevant, because you said it's a no-brainer, yes, but of course it has to be a business case for the customers, right? So, and the public sector is a bit specific based on the political goals, based on let's say the quality of the buildings they have, or how have they been, retrofitted in the past, which mostly didn't happen. So there's a lot of potential of saving energy in CO2.
Okay. So, and is there are there sort of building types, or are there certain kind of buildings where the products, they're just not ready for the products because the kind of technology is outdated, or the kind of smart thermostats, are they kind of pretty universal? They can be fitted to any sort of radiator type.
Yes and no. So basically, yes, if you have a valve in there, it's basically universal. You can have adapters and plug on everyone. There are different regions in the world which are not even on that level yet. So especially, for example, in the, let's say, East European or West Asian countries, they sometimes don't even have those radiators and valves because they have a centrally by government controlled heating. So
right,
there's just a power plant which turns on and off, and then every room is hot or not, right? So they can't regulate. But still, on the most countries in the world, so all European countries, but also, let's say, South Chile, North China, US, they have the same heating systems, and it can be applied everywhere there.
Oh, okay, fantastic. So, and what markets are you most active in at the moment, then, Christoph?
Germany is actually a third of the European market, so one of the largest ones, and which is our home turf. But still, it's interesting, of course, to expand to other countries. Maybe not within the next shorter months, but we'll see what comes up next year.
And are there plans to expand further ashore than that? And obviously, I know you've recently had a significant amount of funding, 5 million funding. Is some of that to kind of look at expanding into other territories, or is that used to kind of develop the team and own the kind of German market before you then look at going, further afield?
Yeah, actually more the last part. So we will go to other countries and the plan is already laid out, but still because of the energy crisis, we have so many customers who want to have thermostats. We actually needed to ramp up faster than we expected, which was the reason why we also got more money, raised more money, right? Because for a product or a solution that is something that is most active in winter, you can't tell the customers they have to wait a year until they get it, right? Because they want to have savings this winter, right? So you have to accelerate, build up a lot of more personnel, build more processes, and just to have more drive force in the market.
Right. Okay. So that to kind of using that to capitalize on the market position. I know when we were speaking before, you said I think the company's been around 7 years or so now, right? But it's seen a big uptick.
Yes.
In the last year or so, which is of course you would expect with the sort of products, services, savings that you're offering as well.
Yeah.
I was reading one of your posts. It came at a time you just you had twins, right? So you'd taken some time of parental leave, and then it was all kind of going a bit crazy just as you were kind of coming back from your parental leave.
Correct.
Pretty wild ride.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. So look, I mean, let's talk about a bit about the business then. So, I mean, like I said, it's established 7 years ago. Obviously, things are going incredibly well. But how big is the company? How big is the company now? Where are you based? Where do you look to kind of bring your kind of staff in from?
Yeah, so we're located in Hamburg, Germany, which is also our one and only location currently. We're roughly 72 people. This year still growing to roughly 100. So there's still some open positions. We do have people also from Berlin who are, commuting maybe once a month to Hamburg.
Okay.
And we started sourcing people in southern Germany because a lot of our business is down there. Generally the people here are international. We have US Americans, we have Europeans, we have Asian people. So that's all across.
Cool. And is it kind of mostly an office-based culture or hybrid, or do you have people working remotely?
Yeah, so we have the philosophy that 100% remote doesn't work for us. So you should be in the office like maybe 20% of your time at least, right? Because what you will see also on reviews like Kununu, which is the German Glassdoor, you will see that the company culture is very, very important for us and special. So if you only do that remote, that's hard to get along with, and you're not really in the team then.
Yeah. Look, I think obviously, look, COVID was it pushed a lot of businesses remote. There's been a lot of businesses that have, obviously started since COVID in a fully remote environment. But that is, obviously as we were in a kind of privileged position, we get to speak to a lot of different businesses, whether they're working fully on site, remote, hybrid, we get to speak to people like yourself, Christoph, and find out some of their challenges. And I think in a remote first business or fully remote business, kind of helping to build and maintain that culture is incredibly difficult. That said, like, we're on the subject of culture. I know it's incredibly important to you and incredibly important to Vilisto. What makes you special? What kind of, what as from a cultural standpoint, why do your employees love coming to work? Why do they love working for the business?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say the purpose and the impact we generate, right? So we have a lot of people who might have been in classical industries before, also, for example, at car manufacturers or whatever, who come to the point, usually at the age of maybe 30, that they say, I can't do this anymore. Right? I need to go for good and change to a company where I find my purpose and actually flourish. Other things, of course, are definitely the culture in the company in terms of the decision rights you have, the the very flat hierarchies, the fast movement of things. We see that, for example, that when people come from classical industry, they tend to build large PowerPoints and then want to have maybe a very big result in 6 months, right? And here it's more speed, more iterations, more try and error, more communication. And I think what's very important also is that the company is not static, right? It's not this organizational structure and these communication channels, but they change and change all along. So sometimes maybe when people are new and have been in larger companies, maybe corporates before, they tend to know no change, right? So they're like, oh, something changes. But as soon as you're here for a month or two, they're like, ah, yeah, it's totally normal that things change all the time, right?
Yeah.
Still, there's steady parts, of course, to keep the people confident there. But we're adapting based on the growth, whatever channels and methodologies we need.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of the fun, right? Of working in a startup, scale up environment. Things change quickly, decisions get made, pivots happen, new products, new services. It's that is part of the fun. I think, but obviously people coming from more traditional environments, automotive is a good example of that. It does take, change does take a lot longer. And if you're making a car, for example, huge amount of different parts, huge amount of different elements that go into that. Obviously, things like safety. It does take a lot longer for a product to come to market and change to happen. So I can imagine that I know it's a challenge for some people to when they do come into an organization like Vilisto, to see, wow, how quick things happen. So do you make sure, I'm assuming you do this, but when you're interviewing people, making them fully aware of the kind of differences between, Vilisto, startup, scale up, how quickly things happen compared to that automotive industry, so that they're not kind of phased by it when they see, wow, I've been here 4 weeks and something's already changed.
Not sure if we actively do so much, because I have the feeling that the people who are actively looking for such a job, they already know or can at least a bit anticipate that things are different. And that's also one of the reasons that why they want to change, right? Because they might have been in a structure where they can't change anything, where everything like, we've done that for a few years, so we'll keep it that way, right? It's like, no, let's change it if it has to be changed. So I'd say there's not much necessity, because the people looking for such a job already know and want to work in such an environment.
Yeah, I suppose you've got working with yourselves. It's the double impact. So if you can come in, you can impact change, you can make things happen. So your work's gonna have an impact, quickly, but also you're having a positive impact on the planet as well.
Yeah.
So there's two types of impact for someone to come in and join Vilisto. Okay, look, last question for you then, Christoph. We're kind of coming towards the end of our time here. And the future looks bright. It's certainly, you're obviously offering products and services that are, definitely needed 100% in the market right now. But what does the future look like? What if we were to fast forward 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, something like that? What does the future look like for Vilisto?
Yeah. So, although Vilisto has been around for 7.5 years now, we're still at the very beginning, right? Because if you look at the volumes, which are quite big already, but if you look at the total volumes of the market, what you can achieve, it is a start, right? Even if you would do 1 million devices a year, you would still have hundreds of millions to go. So, so saying that from our core product, there's just a vast majority of things we can deploy. Nevertheless, also with the investment we got, we are developing further services for and together with our customers to further optimize energy efficiency, and also make them able to have their whole portfolio in one platform, to where to act, let's say, right, to have a carbon-free real estate industry.
Okay. I know, obviously, I appreciate you can't kind of say too much about those products and services without kind of giving away too many trade secrets. So, perhaps we can come back to this in a year or so's time, revisit it and see,
Yeah, sounds good.
talk a bit more about, what those products are and the impact that they're, having for your customers too.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, Christoph, been an absolute pleasure. That we've kind of reached the end of the time now. So I would like to thank you once again for joining me today on the episode. And yeah, look, we'll look forward to kind of keeping an eye on Vilisto and seeing all the great impact that you're continuing to make.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.